Connelly. Thanks, everyone. I can see 130 participants, which is pretty impressive. And from what I just saw of Erica Oakley's presentation, which I must admit is going to be a hard act to follow, I'm sure everybody's been having a really instructive time. But if Erica is still on and listening, fantastic presentation, Erica. I'm going to check out some of your videos in your channel as well. So thanks very much for that. I think what I should do is attempt to share my screen. And probably the most famous question in the last 18 months in the world, can everybody see my screen? I'm just going to hope that you can. I should also say that some of you may know me from wearing another hat, specifically working with iGraduate and running the English Language Barometer for the last several years. And we will be running the English Language Barometer, I hope, again next year with in conjunction with English Australia and with the support of the department, but we've got some conversations to have before that happens. Nevertheless, as Erica indicated, the COVID world requires people to do all sorts of different things to stay ahead of the game, and I've been working with Adventus in that context for the last more than 12 months. So this is a presentation which tries to communicate what Adventus is, what it's about, what it's trying to achieve. The mission of the company is to help students make more informed study decisions about their international study experiences. Just a little on the company. It was a standard bricks and mortar student recruitment agency based in Colombo, Sri Lanka, established in 2013. So it's quite a history of recruiting international students, primarily for Australian institutions. In 2018, it underwent or began the process to transform into an ed tech company. And there has been quite a bit of press about the company recently. Idea being to establish a technology platform that would enable students to access information about study choices in different parts of the world. And so that transformation into an edtech company has been a fascinating one for me to observe, and we've come a long way in the last couple of years. The problem that Adventus is trying to solve is that classic problem of students working with agents who have a limited portfolio of institutions that they work with, and students therefore not always being given the best study options for them, simply the best options that are available to them through that particular agency. What Adventus does in establishing the technology platform is essentially set up a marketplace with agents on one side of the marketplace and institutions on the other. So the whole idea is to enable greater choice for students, to enable agents, which Adventus refers to as recruiters, to access a much larger portfolio of institutions and courses, and to enable institutions to extend their reach virtually. So those are the challenges that the Adventus platform is attempting to address. So the solution is rather an elegant one to set up a marketplace of recruiters that are vetted, and I'll go through that process a little bit later, that enables students to make those much more informed choices, to smooth the process of finding international study options and matching students with the best possible option. Now, the business model is an interesting one. I'll just describe briefly the current profile of the company. The 2018 transformation of Adventus really meant the company took on the name Adventus.io, IO standing for Indian Ocean, but we still refer to the company as Adventus. At the moment, there are 2,500 agents working on the platform. And by the end of the year, there will be 6,000 agents working on the platform. You can see on the screen here that those agents will be operating by the end of the year from Latin America, the Middle East and Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Asia. Given the origins of the company, it's already operating out of South Asia. Global admissions is centered in Colombo in Sri Lanka, where the company originated, but the company is currently working out of Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan, as well as Vietnam in Southeast Asia and onshore in Australia. So it's very much in the process of counselling students, finding study options for them and placing them primarily in the higher education space. I'll talk a little bit about the sectors later in the presentation. What's been really interesting for us at the moment, it's primarily an Australian company. The four founders of Adventus.io are all based in Australia, 3 of them based in Melbourne. Melbourne has 35 or 40 employees, with most of the senior leadership in this part of the world. But with borders closed in Australia and New Zealand and operating out of South Asia, our observation of student behaviour of the South Asian students, dominated by Indian students, is they're extremely pragmatic and they're simply going to where the borders are open. And so our traffic through the platform to the UK and Canada in particular is substantial at the moment. And in the last 3 months, the interest in Australia and New Zealand has dropped off considerably as it has swung towards those markets with open borders. So that's been a really interesting thing for us to observe. So we have 2,500 agents operating with us at the moment. By the end of the year, we'll have processed 10,000 applications. So the marketplace, the Adventus marketplace, is becoming quite substantial. There are more than 250 team members at the moment. There'll be 400 by the end of the year. In the regions where we operate, recruitment activity, we will have staff physically located in those regions to manage the agent networks, which will mean that we'll have more than 25 offices around the world. Now, just to give you a bit of a flavour, and this is where it becomes a bit more interesting for language centres in Australia, if borders do open at some point in the distant future, and I'll reserve my comments about borders in Australia and our approach to that for another forum, I think. But by the end of the year, we will be in physically 19 or 20 different countries. You can see them there on the screen: in Latin America, Mexico, Colombia, and Brazil; in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and UAE; Nigeria; in Africa, we're also considering Kenya. We're already in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bhutan. We recruit in Australia as an onshore market. We're already in Vietnam, but very soon we'll have moved into Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia, and by the end of the year, Japan and South Korea. So you can see quite a number of Alicos relevant markets will be represented on the Adventus platform by the end of the year. So one of the issues, I guess, that institutions raise when they talk with us about the platform, they understand the opportunity of being able to reach a lot more students, a lot more agents in a lot more countries through the platform, but they do worry about the risk of having that recruiter network managed. The way that Adventus operates is similar to a master agent sub-agent arrangement. Adventus holds the agency agreement with the institution, and it also holds agreements with sub-agents and ensures that those agents adhere to the requirements of the agency agreement that Adventus holds with its institutional partners. There are a few differences though, main one being that Adventus does not retain any of the commission that institutions pay to it for the successful recruitment of a student, but passes 100% of that commission through to the agents. So the first question anybody asks then is, how does the company make money? And on the recruiter side, recruiters pay a subscription to be on the platform and to access the course and institutional inventory that we have, and institutions have the opportunity to market in the platform. We have a range of marketing activities that are already underway in the platform for institutions to be able to position themselves. We have at the moment more than 1,100 institution partners worldwide. So there's a fair bit of jostling for position amongst those institutions to get in front of students. Nevertheless, that recruiter network is a significant amount of work for us to manage, and it's worthwhile just having a look at the way we do that so that you can assure yourselves that we are able to manage that perceived risk of a large number of agents. The first is to understand that not just any agent is able to work with us. They go through a rigorous vetting process before they sign on, similar to the due diligence that Australian institutions do with Adventus to sign an agency agreement in the first place. So we make sure that our recruiters are appropriate to be working with us on our platform. Once they've gone through the vetting process, we do quite a lot of work to onboard and train recruiters so that they're able to use the platform, they're able to access information about the institutions that we're working with and support them on an ongoing basis to work with us and our platform. So in every country, we have admissions staff who work with recruiters to make sure they understand application processes. All applications are funneled from recruiters through Adventus and only submitted by Adventus to institutions. So institutions only ever have to deal with Adventus admissions staff. In countries where compliance and visa issues are prominent, we have what we call a QCV team, Quality Compliance and Visa team, which works with recruiters to make sure that appropriate GTE processes are followed in those countries. And we have a sales team that manages the recruiter relationship, making sure that they get the most out of their work with Adventus. We have a substantial knowledge base in the platform. We run a comprehensive training program on destinations, on sectors of international education, on institutions that we work with, all recorded on our platform and then stored in our knowledge base so that those recordings are available to all Adventus staff and all recruiters across the Adventus network. That training support is substantial. I can, from firsthand experience, tell you, because I've participated in a lot of the training that we've done for both the Adventus team members in the different parts of the world. It's a growing company. This time last year, we had 100 staff. We've got 250 now, so it's growing very quickly. And also for recruiters, and I've done that in conjunction with a number of institutions, including Australian institutions who've run those recruiter training webinars on our platform, which proved very popular and valuable for the recruiters. There's certainly a spike in interest in institutions following a webinar, but recruiters value the opportunity to get that first-hand training. Application processes, another area of perceived risk or possible risk for institutions. As I said earlier, all applications are funneled through Adventus to institutions, so institutions only have to deal with the Adventus admissions team. We now have an admissions hub in Sri Lanka, in Ho Chi Minh City, and an application processing center in Noida, just on the outskirts of New Delhi, to cope with the volume that we have. So it's a substantial application processing team that we have in place around the world for course applications. And for visa applications, we have a very specific quality assurance process for visa applications, particularly in the countries we're currently working in South Asia. The whole GTE process for institutions is very important. And we make sure that recruiters not only follow our processes, but they conduct back to source documentation checks so that our visa applications have an appropriate success rate. At the moment in 2021, 90% of offers that we've submitted to institutions have received an offer, and we've got a better than 90% success rate with our visa applications. So we hold ourselves to pretty high standards. So how does this work for all of the different stakeholders? From an institutional perspective, by the end of the year, being present in 20 countries and recruiting and managing a network spanning 23 countries, we're going to be able to offer significant diversity for institutions in terms of potential student cohorts. We have artificial intelligence built into the platform so that we can assist students and recruiters with things like predictive offers. So based on criteria that students or counsellors input into the platform about themselves, we're able to give students an idea of the programs that they are qualified to attend. And we have a range of virtual marketing activity that is underway at the moment in the platform. And the obvious challenge for institutions at the moment, not being able to travel, is to be able to market and promote themselves. But we think what COVID has done is really fast forward us to a different marketing future in international education around the world, where platforms such as this are going to be critical to institutions being able to manage reach, promote themselves, and institutions all over the world have now much more stressed resources than they had pre-COVID. So they have to do more with less. And that's certainly going to be the case in Australia over the next several years, in my view. We have a range of processes in place to ensure quality, both of the study application as well as the visa application. The whole business model falls down if we're not managing the quality of the applications that we send to students, institutions, and the quality of the students that we send to institutions. We make the management of that significant agent network easy for institutions. Institutions hold us to account. We hold agents to account. We hold agents to the same standards that institutions hold us to account. And so in that way, we're able to make sure that the job is as easy as possible for institutions to work with Adventus. And in terms of courses, the platform lists all of the courses that an institution has, whether it's a small number of courses all the way up to several hundred for a university. We do all that work for institutions. We enable institutions to check their course inventory, but we manage that course inventory for them. The whole business model was built around providing value to students. As I said at the very beginning, the idea being to provide as broad a choice as possible to students about study options that are available to them. So to remove bias, to remove the risk of working with agents that have just a limited portfolio of institutions they work with that may or may not suit a particular student's needs. Students don't pay anything to be on the platform. They can't find the platform by themselves. We are a B2B business. We work with agents. We rely on agents to bring students to the platform. So in that sense, the students are partially qualified before they get into the platform. We're not a lead generation organization. We try to give as much clarity as possible to both the agents that we're working with as well as to students on the platform. And we make sure that there are relevant options for students. We think we've got a course in our platform. Currently, courses in the platform number more than 60,000 for every student that is introduced by an agent. Value to institutions, I've mentioned a couple of these. There's that global reach. We're already working with 2,500 recruiters across all of those markets. We'll be in 20 different countries by the end of the year, managing recruitment out of 23 countries. So that global reach is significant. The student market itself is becoming substantial. We've already placed, in fact, close to 2,500 students in 2021. As I said earlier, primarily in the Northern Hemisphere. We're putting about 500 new students onto the platform every month. By the end of the year, 10,000 students will have applied for courses through Adventus. It's a marketing platform. It's an opportunity for institutions to be able to promote themselves remotely and with ease. And we have a whole range of metrics and reports in the platform that enable institutions to review their own performance, but also to review the performance of Adventus in terms of particularly conversion from application through to enrolment of a student. Now, for an Australian audience, in case you're wondering who we already work with, we have 23 universities with whom we have direct agency agreements. They are those universities on the screen. Some of them work with us in some of our markets, others work with us in every market that we are in. So we have global agreements with about half of these universities and agreements with the rest, which cherry pick particular markets that they're interested in working in. In New Zealand, we've already started to expand into New Zealand, where we have 3 university partners. We work with all the major pathway partners as well. So those pathway partners give us access to another dozen universities in Australia, whereby we can send students to the pathway college and then onto the university beyond that. So our reach in Australia is also already fairly substantial. And if institutions, if language centres are interested in working with us, very easy. It's a simple agency agreement. We will do all the work to get courses. We'll go through your processes. We'll sign your agreement. We don't have our own agreement. We're not operating on a standard agreement. So we accept an institutional agreement. We'll put all the courses on the platform. All you have to do is sit back, receive applications. And as I said earlier, we pass through 100% of commission, whatever the commission arrangements are in standard agreements, through to recruiters. And we make that information visible and transparent in the platform for recruiters so that they know exactly what they're liable to get. And that, Sophie, if you are still there, just checking the time, I'm hoping
we
that I
are
stuck
out of
to
time
your
there.
time frame.
Stephen, that was perfect timing. Thank you very much.